Hi, thank you for joining me. I want to talk about the effects of ignoring mental health, which is not a cheerful subject, but it's a very important one. Over a long time, mental health has not been given the time, money, and attention that physical health has. It's the poor cousin that has been largely ignored. There is a cost to ignoring mental health, and it's very high. Society is slowly starting to realise that. So I'm going to give a scenario here. Someone is feeling depressed and anxious. It's starting to make their life difficult. They're having trouble coping. They're starting to feel desperate. They go to their family and friends and tell them how they're feeling. But they all say, "Stop complaining, you have a good life. Get a grip of yourself. Don't be so dramatic." A few days later, that person is dead. Everyone is saying, why? Why did they do it? They had everything to live for. Why would they end their life? The answer to that is they were not being heard, because everyone who they tried to ask for help shut them down. They tried to do what everyone said and get themselves out of it, think happy thoughts and be content, but it didn't work. They fought it, but it only got worse. They were being told that what was happening to them was their fault, but they could not stop it. They felt ashamed, inadequate and despairing, and they could not see any way out. So they did what seemed like the only thing left to do. I'm sorry to be so blunt about it all. I know it's not a nice thing to think about, but it needs to be said, because this is the reality of what can happen when mental illness is ignored and condemned. Desperate people will do desperate things. That's how it works. And when people get into that place, it's a real danger zone. When life becomes that much of a struggle, you will do almost anything to escape it and to relieve the awful feelings. You will use anything you can to make things more tolerable. You stop caring about the effect it will have on your health and your well-being, because you just think life's not worth living anyway, so what does it matter? When people reach that tipping point where they can no longer stand it, they will do something, and whatever it is, it won't end well. They might take their own life, they might turn to drink and drugs, they might start self-harming. There are many things they can do. When someone does kill themselves, people can be very blaming and quick to say that they were an awful person for doing it. No, they were not an awful person. They were just a person who was ill. They were deeply troubled, lost, and could not find their way out of it. When someone makes the decision to do that, they don't just wake up one morning and think, oh, this'll be a laugh. It's an act of desperation. It's a very sad situation when death seems like a better option than living. No one wants to be in that place. But when you're depressed, your whole world becomes distorted. You lose the ability to see life as it really is. Everything turns dark. The sun never shines. It's just a never-ending thunderstorm, and you can't make it stop. That's why people do it, because they start to think that this is never going to end, and they can't stand the thought of living the rest of their life like that. They do it because that's the only way they can see to make it stop. Whereas if they had been treated, they could have been saved. If society didn't make it so hard, there wouldn't be so many people suffering in silence and resorting to desperate measures. I have never attempted suicide, but I have been in that place where I didn't want to be here, so I get why people do it. Those of us who have suffered from depression and anxiety, we understand how difficult it makes your life. We know how hard it is just to get through the day. It's only when you've been through it that you can really understand what it's like. Those who have not suffered from it can be very dismissive and unsympathetic. But just because they have not suffered from it yet doesn't mean they never will. Then they will see there isn't just one type of person who will kill themselves. Anyone can resort to that if they get desperate enough. Sometimes it's the person you least expect. People get good at hiding it. They might seem very happy on the outside, but inside they're falling apart. They don't want other people to see how they're really feeling, so they put on a front. They don't really know what's going on themselves, and they can't articulate it to anyone else. As long as society keeps on shaming mental illness and trying to pretend it doesn't exist, there will continue to be casualties. If someone told you that they thought they might have cancer, you would tell them to get to the doctor immediately. Mental illness needs to be treated the same way. The responsibility is on everyone to take this seriously, to become educated about it, be willing to talk about it, and to be understanding and compassionate towards those who are suffering from mental illness. This is everyone's problem. For anyone who is suffering from depression, anxiety, or any other mental disorder, treatment is the only way. And for all those who have not suffered from mental illness, you never know when it might be you or someone you care about. If someone comes to you and says that they're suffering mentally, take them seriously. Otherwise, you could end up living with a lot of guilt and regret. Early intervention is extremely important. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you for watching. See you next time.